Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Irish Marketing Podcast, powered by IMJ and Tinpot Productions. Each week we're going to do our best to bring you the essential stories, stats, insights and analyses, creativity and chaos from marketing, adland and related territories. My name's Daryl. As well as being the head of Tinpot Productions, I'll be your host for the duration, and today's inaugural pod will feature the Public House's MD, Kerry Sweeney, elaborating on 3 of her essential agency hacks, covering everything from the meaningful to the mundane.
When you start a new job and they tell you we're like one big happy family here, you know there's going to be some human rights infringements on the way.
Publicis Business Director Edel McCabe joins us in studio to talk about trip chaining and how AXA is helping women to time out.
We could see that people were using the car as a space for a bit of peace and quiet. We wanted to turn that into a moment and a habit and normalise that pause.
And Laura Costello from Think House is up for a game of Cards for Humanity.
By the first round, you can see everyone's kind of like, okay, we're playing a game. Is it going to be competitive? How much of ourselves do we actually have to share?
But today we start with Kerry Sweeney, who joined the Public House's MD last year. Recently she wrote an article for adworld.ie which broke down what she called the pride and peril of steering a creative agency. And Kerry, you've boiled things down to 6 hacks that have helped you over that time. The first one you wrote about was all about how important it is to find the right space to make key decisions. Can you tell us a little bit more about that idea?
I was only yesterday describing kind of the day-to-day to somebody as, you know, that game like whack-a-mole where you hit down one thing and then another thing pops up. And some days it's just like that on repeat all day. I've fixed one thing, another thing pops up. And then before you know it, it's 4:30, 5 o'clock and you're like, I actually haven't thought about anything outside of fighting fires all day. And then often it's kind of only on your way home from work, maybe a little stroll through Stephen's Green and Marion Square on the way home that I kind of have some time to think. Like carving out that time for yourself is so important, and the decisions that I make or the time that I actually do think is never really in the office. And I've found more and more then over the last year to actually try and purposely do those things, like purposely step away, purposely walk around the block, just get out and get away.
And is that partly, let's call it a location or a, based thing whereby you need to be physically away from the day-to-day and the whack-a-mole and the clutter to have yourself thinking in a different way?
Yeah, definitely. I think when people can see you there, they're inclined to come up and ask you, like, sometimes the most ridiculous questions as well. Can I expense this? Or, where do you keep the kitchen roll in the office and things like that? And they're all valid questions, but, they do kind of knock you out of what you're thinking or whatever. And I think, just not being so... I suppose it's like having boundaries, I think, with people as well, and having that space for yourself, stepping away from the team, from the building, from my laptop.
Where do you keep the kitchen roll in the kitchen?
Do you know, it moves around, and this is the problem that we're having. People don't store things in the same place. I like to say a place for everything and everything in its place, but no.
The second thing you had mentioned was culture is the most important and fragile thing in an agency. And you talk about the corporate one big family thing. And is that line a bit of a myth or a trope, this idea of an agency being a kind of a family?
Yeah, I find that line kind of creepy. I really do. I read a tweet a few months ago and it was so funny because I resonated so much with it. And it was when you start a new job and they tell you we're like one big happy family here, you know there's going to be some human rights infringements on the way. So I think you have your family, you have your friends, and it's important to not be emotionally manipulative like that, I think, as well. That's a big thing for me. I want people to be here by choice. I want them to decide to show up every day. We're a group of adults, not in the kind of college project kind of way where you are a little bit forced into it, but you're also a group of adults. This is just a group of adults deciding to show up every day for each other. And some days you can show up a little bit more than others, and that's fine too. But I think taking the emotion out of that family thing and just be decent human beings. And bring your dogs in as well. I love that. Although Rob, one of our directors, is allergic to dogs, but we just give him antihistamines.
Very good. Hack number 3, You mentioned that clients don't just want a creative agency, they want a creative partner. You also talk about the fact that sometimes it means having uncomfortable conversations. Can you talk a little bit about what are the kinds of uncomfortable conversations that are sometimes necessary and maybe to the benefit of the client? And also, if you could elaborate on one phrase, which is paying the cost of dull, which you mentioned.
We're quite lucky that a lot of our clients come to us specifically because they want to do work that's interesting. Our agency philosophy is boring doesn't sell. So if you don't buy into that, I suppose it's harder to work with us as an agency because that's what we're gonna give you the most interesting thing possible. But yeah, we have to have those difficult conversations and say, you came to us for this reason. This is your brief. We're showing you this work. You want to kind of dial it back or take it back a notch. We can't, we're not going to move the dial by doing that for you. So having those conversations often helps to remind everybody, I suppose, what we're trying to do together. They're the kind of most difficult ones, I suppose, when you have to challenge clients on their own feedback.
And this isn't just a kind of a notional idea. There is methodology and research behind this that points to the financial, economic benefits of this approach. Am I right in saying that?
Warwick had done a study about 2 years ago, and they had said that 85% actually of advertising goes unnoticed purely because it's boring, dull, wallpaper. You walk by it on the street, you don't remember it. We try and keep our clients in that top 15%. So whatever their budgets are, whatever their message is, that it's really resonating with the audience that it needs to. And it's not going to waste. It's not wallpaper. It's not sitting in the sea of same, as we say. You'll notice it a lot. I think there's a lot of energy companies out there. You'll see the hard hat, the wind turbine, the high-vis vest. I couldn't tell you which energy company that is, but I think it's all of them. Bar one or two. They don't understand that it's a bigger risk to do that than it is to do something different and stand out from the crowd. The day, I suppose, we give our clients that kind of work is the day that we're not living by our philosophy and we're doing something terribly wrong.
That was Kerry Sweeney there from the Public House with our first 3 hacks for surviving and thriving at the front lines of agency endeavours. We'll have more from Kerry in our next podcast next week. But next to Adele McCabe from Publicis, who worked on the recent Problems Parked campaign for AXA. The campaign was inspired by a 2024 Mind Health report showing quite arresting figures for women's mental health. When I spoke to Adele, she gave me some background on the research that underpinned the campaign.
AXA run this Mind Health report yearly. And it's a global initiative. But we look at what the local figures are for Ireland and see where we can make an impact. When we looked at the 2024 one, there was one statistic that jumped out really strongly at us. Mental health issues affect 51% of women in Ireland, which was staggering. So we really wanted to have a look at that and see what could we do to help women take action or to drive awareness and destigmatise that statistic and try turn it into an act of self-care.
Do you think, was that 51%, was that a significant increase on previous years, do you know?
It was definitely a significant increase on men's mental health. So there was a disproportionate effect on women, and that's why it stood out for us. Now, talking to some mental health professionals when we were researching this, some of them were surprised that it was low. They actually think that the figure is probably higher.
Wow. And would they have any understanding as to why there's more between women and men?
One of the things is that women tend to take on a lot of responsibilities in the caring space. So whether it's caring for children, caring for households, caring for parents. They call it trip chaining, where you're going where you might be driving the kids to school, or you might be going to the supermarket, you might be going to work, you might be going to after school. Women tend to take time in the car. As we looked into this, we could see that people were using the car as a space for a bit of peace and quiet and a bit of a reset. We wanted to turn that into a moment and a habit and normalise that pause.
You've aligned with Q Park. Could you just elaborate on the rationale behind that aligning with Q Park and how that worked in practice?
Q Park came on as a really great partner and gave women 51 minutes free parking in order that they could take that time for themselves and to highlight that really strong statistic of 51% of women have mental health issues.
I always try and put on a brave face, but it's overwhelming. can't find space or time for myself anymore.
The AXA Mind Health Self-Check tool. It's really useful because it's free, it's clinically backed. The idea is you've got a score, you can keep checking back in, see are you doing better, and knowing really when to stop and say, I really need to have a look at my lifestyle, I really need to have a look at the support that I'm getting, I really need to look at how I'm feeling.
I didn't realise how much I needed that.
It's so important to just take some time for yourself.
I just feel like as women we carry so much, you sometimes just forget to stop.
I'm interested in the broader question in relation to brands. Do you think that they can have a positive part to play? Obviously they have in this instance, but is there a role that traditionally is obviously, if you like, managed by the state or by health providers, but is there something positive and proactive that also brands can do that can help people, do you think?
I think so. And I think when brands have large customer bases, they have to be looking after them in ways that are outside the products and the services that they actually sell them. That can be a big thing, like a policy change, or something that's really useful and simple, like this tool. I don't know if you know, but AXA in France have the 3 words initiative. They've actually changed their policy. So when your home insurance policy says it'll protect you and rehouse you in terms of if there's a flood or if there's a fire, they've added 3 words to that policy, which is and domestic violence. When you are at risk and you need to leave, that has traditionally been around whether it's flood or fire. But there is another significant risk.
And thanks to Adele McCabe from Publicis there, talking to some of the ways in which brands can take a kind of an active role in positive mental health. Now, working in collaboration with Goal, youth agency Think House recently came up with a fairly novel storytelling game designed to encourage and inspire active global citizenship. I'm with Laura Costello, who is Head of Sustainability and Planet Services at Think House. Laura, tell us what the game's all about.
Cards for Humanity, it came from a 3-year-long project that we've been running so far with Goal Next Gen. And Goal Next Gen are part of Goal, the global charity, and their work is trying to drive a sense of global citizenship in Ireland with young people in Ireland. So kind of trying to get people to engage in global justice issues and issues around sustainability, and our approach is to do it through creativity. So how do you create something exciting that will get young people interested in having deeper discussions and generating, I guess, a sense of awareness, understanding and action for global issues. Cards for Humanity came up as an idea based around, I guess, this insight, in an era where we're connecting digitally online a lot, where you see the rise of AI, how do we generate moments of real connection for people and real human connection, like analog? It is about trying to kind of not only connect people, but connect people to have conversations about things that might be surprising or new for them.
So we have Cards for Humanity on the table here. Can you talk me through typically the gameplay now, how this works or what's involved?
Yes. So there's 4 different sections of cards. You start with the self and story. So you get warmed up talking about, I guess, more personal stories or just trying to be a little bit vulnerable with yourself. And then you go into community and connection. So going from the self out into community. And then you go into global citizenship and debate. And then there's imagination and action. So that's a little bit more looking to the future. And then we've got some wild cards as well instead, if you want to skip your question or you don't feel like answering a question. Some questions are lighter than others. If you do kind of the group gameplay, there's options to kind of give people points for vulnerability or give people points for, being creative. It's all around just trying to, spark that deeper level of conversation.
I probably shouldn't ask this. Do you envisage that that the game might be played with a drink in hand, or is that no comment?
The idea for the game is that it can be played in as many different situations as you'd like. So I think when we first started talking about it, we had this connection council came together to workshop it. So we had different people. We had Leon from Black and Irish, we had Gaff from Shanakiha, we had Melanie from Her Story, we had Tebby Rex, and we had Aisha from Durham. So some brilliant organisations, and people came together and said, what's our vision for this? And people were talking about, a game around a dinner table, a game with friends, even in the workspaces, workshops, workshop prompts. So I think the idea is that, you could put it in your bag and bring it anywhere with you.
Okay, so that's a yes.
By the first round, you can see everyone's kind of like, okay, we're playing a game. Is it going to be competitive? How much of ourselves do we actually have to share? But the beauty of it was, as we played more rounds, you got to really see each person in the space and not only just see them, but hear them and feel them and listen to the things that are important to them.
That's a short clip from Aisha from Durham, who you mentioned earlier, talking about her experience of Cards for Humanity. Now, I have your digital version of Cards for Humanity here.
Digital version.
The digital version, yes. I thought, the best way to illustrate what Cards for Humanity is about is just to give it a whirl. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. You can have limitless wild cards. So if you don't do the question, you can just pass on to a next card and we'll just see how we go.
You'll have to answer a question too.
Oh, I knew that was going
back and forth.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got the laptop. So
you got the laptop.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Is protest an effective way to create change? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think protest is a really effective way to create change. We've seen it, in the US. Equality protests that happened there over the years, and women getting the right to vote, that was all around taking to the streets. And I think it works because you're able to really see an expression of community, right? See an expression of what people really care about and have that heard really loudly. I mean, I'm a proud protester for things that I really care about, because sometimes, even though you feel like it might not make a difference, it feels like you're doing something. And that feeling can get multiplied when you're with other people, and it can lead to even more momentum behind the cause. So I think it's hugely important. Your one next.
Oh, okay. I'll pick the next one then.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I'll do it. So what do you believe are the best solutions to a housing crisis? Okay, I'm not a housing expert. I would say I have had this conversation with a few people. I think two things. Firstly, I think Dublin City post-COVID is not the city that it was, particularly at weekends. I think that's probably true of elsewhere, or at least that's my opinion. And I do think that you would hope that there's a lot of commercial space that could be repurposed to have people living in the city. And I think that does two things. It helps the city become more lived in, and also just means that there's not empty places that are sitting there vacant.
Use our empty spaces.
Yeah. So anyway, you're next.
Great. Okay, hit me.
Let me get you a different colour here. So let me just see. Who is the activist that most inspires you and why?
Ooh. Do you know who's coming to mind? Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And why so?
I hadn't got this question yet in any other games, but I think because she used the skills that she had developed in her profession for something that she believed that was a kind of a values base, I guess, like similar to what I'm doing in my work now, which is like, how do you stay in an industry that you believe has many flaws, like fundamental flaws, but try and use it to create change. And I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg used the law in really, really clever ways to be able to create like transformative change for women.
Yeah, good answer. And I guess if you're working in a scenario where there's plenty of flaws, arguably there's plenty of scope for change.
Exactly.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your own role then as Head of Sustainability and Planet Services? What does that kind of involve, or what's your kind of, what's the remit, so to speak?
So Think House is a youth marketing company, and we've got 3 core services, and they're described as Fame, Transformation and Planet. So Fame is everything you probably generally would associate with a marketing or advertising company, social media and PR and advertising, essentially. And Transformation is where our planning and strategy department comes in, called the Youth Lab, where we do work with young people, providing insights and strategies to help brands and businesses connect with this next generation. And then Planet is all around working with brands and organisations through this transition to sustainability, to a world where we work in harmony with nature. And so I work on the client side with brands, with businesses, with NGOs, non-profits, with government departments and government programs, to creative campaigns to create the type of world that we all want to see come about.
And that's about as good a note to end on for this week as I can think of. Thanks to Laura, Adele and Kerry for being with us, and also you for taking the time. The next Irish Marketing Podcast will land next Friday and is available wherever you pick your pods.